My name is Bryce Matthews. I am 68 years old and spent my entire life as an investment banker to give my only daughter Amanda everything she could ever want. The crown jewel of my assets was always my Malibu beach house, which I planned to leave to her someday. But at her wedding reception, I accidentally overheard my new son-in-law, Justin, telling his friend they would put me in a nursing home and take my beach house. If you have ever had to teach someone a painful but necessary lesson about greed, hit subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. My story might help you find the courage to stand up for yourself. I never imagined I would be the kind of father who would have to protect himself from his own daughter. For most of my life, I believed I was building a legacy for Amanda. My wife, Elaine, and I had tried for years to have children before Amanda came along. She was our miracle, and we poured everything into giving her a wonderful life. Elaine passed away from breast cancer 8 years ago. The battle was long and painful, leaving Amanda without her mother just as she was entering her 20s. I think that loss changed something fundamental in my daughter, creating a void that she tried to fill with material things. I built my career at Morgan Stanley, starting as an ambitious young analyst and working my way up to senior investment advisor over 4 decades. The hours were brutal, often 70 or 80 hours a week, but the compensation allowed me to provide well for my family. By the time I retired at 65, I had accumulated several properties and a healthy investment portfolio. The Malibu beach house was my pride and joy. I purchased the land 30 years ago when coastal property was expensive but not the astronomical investment it is today. Elaine and I designed every inch of that house together, planning it as our retirement sanctuary. 3 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Pacific, a wraparound deck where we watched countless sunsets. After Elaine died, that house became even more precious to me. It was where I felt closest to her memory. The Brentwood house was different. I bought it when Amanda graduated from UCLA with her marketing degree. It was meant to be a graduation gift, but also an investment property. I allowed Amanda to live there rent-free, but I maintained ownership, paying the property taxes and insurance. Amanda always referred to it as her house, and I never corrected her, thinking someday it would indeed be hers. The property had nearly doubled in value over the 7 years she lived there, now worth close to $3 million. Amanda and I had always been close during her childhood and teen years. She was a daddy's girl, intelligent and sweet. We would spend weekends at museums, hiking trails, or just reading books side by side at the beach house. She seemed content with our upper-middle-class lifestyle and showed genuine appreciation for the opportunities she had. College changed her. She fell in with a wealthy crowd at UCLA, students with trust funds and luxury cars. Suddenly, our family home in Sherman Oaks was embarrassing to her. Her simple Toyota that had been perfectly acceptable in high school was traded for a BMW that I helped finance. Her tastes became exclusively designer, and her career ambitions shifted from nonprofit work to corporate marketing for luxury brands. I worried about these changes but told myself it was just a phase. Young people often go through periods of materialism before finding their true values. I continued supporting her financially, hoping she would eventually find her way back to the grounded person she had been. Then Justin Alexander entered the picture 2 years ago. Amanda met him at a charity gala for her marketing firm. He worked in commercial real estate development, came from what he called old San Francisco money, and exuded the kind of confidence that borders on arrogance. He was handsome enough, I suppose, with perfect teeth and the perpetual tan of someone who spends weekends on yachts. My first impression wasn't positive. When Amanda brought him to dinner at my house, he spent more time looking at my art collection and asking about my properties than getting to know me. He called me sir with a smile that never reached his eyes. Something about him felt calculated, as though he was assessing the value of everything and everyone around him. Their courtship was swift and extravagant. Justin took Amanda to Aspen for Christmas, Bora Bora for her birthday. They dined at restaurants where entrees cost hundreds of dollars and attended events where Amanda needed new designer gowns each time. I noticed her credit card debt mounting, but she assured me Justin would be made partner at his firm any day. After just 10 months of dating, they were engaged. The ring was enormous, a 4-carat diamond that must have cost a fortune. When I asked Justin about it privately, wondering if he had overextended himself financially, He laughed and said, "Property is where the real money is, sir. This is just window dressing." The wedding planning became an exercise in excess. Amanda wanted a 200-person ceremony at the Ritz in Laguna Beach. The flower budget alone was $40,000. When I gently suggested scaling back, Amanda burst into tears, accusing me of trying to ruin her special day. Justin smoothly intervened, putting his arm around my shoulder. "We only get one shot at this, Bryce," he said. "Amanda deserves her dream wedding. If finances are a concern, I am happy to talk options." I knew then he was fishing to learn more about my financial situation. I simply said I wanted my daughter to be happy and would handle the wedding costs. In total, I spent just over $175,000 on a single day, against every financial principle I had lived by. I told myself it was worth it to see Amanda happy. The wedding planning revealed more about Justin than I wanted to know. He was particular about appearances, insisting on top-shelf liquor and sending back the sample wedding cake 3 times. He had opinions about everything but offered to pay for nothing. When vendors called, they were directed to me. Justin was always mysteriously unavailable when bills needed to be settled. I shared my concerns with my close friend Thomas, who had been my attorney for 30 years. "Do you think I am overreacting?" I asked him over lunch. Thomas shook his head. "Your instincts in business were always good, Bryce. Why doubt them now with something more important?" But it was too late. The wedding was happening, and Amanda was more distant than ever. She spent more time with Justin's friends, young wealthy couples who treated money as an endless resource rather than something earned through hard work. I felt like I was losing my daughter before the wedding even took place. The wedding day arrived with perfect Southern California weather. Clear blue skies, 78 degrees, gentle breeze coming off the Pacific. The ceremony was set up on the beach behind the Ritz, white chairs on white sand, an elaborate floral arch framing the ocean backdrop. 187 guests filled the seats, though I recognized fewer than 30 faces among them. Amanda was radiant. Whatever my feelings about Justin or the extravagance of the event, seeing my daughter in her wedding gown nearly stopped my heart. She looked so much like Elaine in that moment that I had to take several deep breaths to maintain my composure. When I walked her down the aisle, I felt both pride and loss tangled together, wishing fiercely that Elaine could have been there to see our beautiful daughter. The ceremony was brief but emotional. Amanda and Justin exchanged vows they had written themselves. Hers spoke of finding her soulmate and building a beautiful life together. His mentioned their bright future and the legacy they would create. Something in his choice of words made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling aside. At the reception, I gave my speech as father of the bride. I spoke about Amanda as a child, her kindness and curiosity. I welcomed Justin to our family, promising to support their marriage however I could. I ended by raising a toast to Elaine, acknowledging how much she would have loved this day. There were tears and applause, and for a brief moment, I felt connected to the celebration. That feeling faded quickly as the evening progressed. The reception was held in the hotel ballroom, transformed by lighting and flowers into something resembling a royal gala. Justin and his friends dominated the atmosphere, loudly celebrating and taking over the dance floor. His parents, wealthy but surprisingly subdued people from San Francisco, sat looking slightly uncomfortable at the display. I found myself retreating to the edges of the party, exchanging pleasantries with the few relatives and old friends who had attended. Several times Amanda came to pull me into conversations with Justin's friends, successful young men in finance and real estate, who talked about market opportunities and vacation properties. Their partners, women who resembled Amanda in their designer dresses and perfect makeup, discussed renovation projects and charity committees. I felt ancient and out of place. By 10 o'clock I needed air. The noise, champagne, and forced conversations had given me a headache. I slipped out onto the hotel terrace, finding a quiet corner partially hidden by potted palms. The night air was cool, carrying the salt scent of the ocean. I closed my eyes, imagining Elaine beside me, wondering what advice she would give me about Amanda and Justin. That was when I heard their voices, Justin and his best man, Ryan, coming to stand behind a decorative column just a few feet from my secluded spot. They were clearly several drinks into the evening. their voices carrying that loose, unguarded quality of the slightly drunk. So 3 more months of playing the devoted husband. Then we start phase 2, Justin was saying. You really think you can convince her to put her old man in a care facility? Ryan asked. He seems pretty sharp to me. Trust me, it is all about planting seeds. Amanda already complains he gets confused sometimes. I will just build on that. Maybe move some things around in his house when we visit. Make him think he is forgetting things. The old man is 68, not ancient, but old enough that no one will question it, especially coming from a concerned daughter and son-in-law. My blood ran cold. I remained perfectly still, hardly breathing. And the beach house? Ryan asked. Prime Malibu beachfront, worth at least $7 million in today's market. I already have investors interested. We subdivide the lot, build 2 modern properties, easy profit of $4 to $5 million after construction costs. Does Amanda know about this plan? Justin laughed, a sound that sent chills through me. Sweet, naive. Amanda thinks we will use it as a weekend getaway. Keep the place in the family for our future kids. She has no idea about real estate development potential. That one small lot is worth more than everything her father has given her so far. But what if he changes his will, leaves it to someone else? He will not. The old man dotes on her. Besides, we control the narrative once he is in assisted living. Power of attorney, confused elderly man, concerned daughter, the usual story. What about the Brentwood house? Already factored in. That one is actually in her name. I nearly gasped aloud. It was not in her name. I had paid for it, maintained it, and kept it as an investment property. Amanda had never paid $1 toward that house. Justin continued. We will sell it next year. Use the capital for our Pacific Palisades project. $3 million easy. No split with investors on that one since it is already hers. Between that and the beach property development, we are set for the next phase. They clinked glasses, and Justin added, to getting rich off the wealth of others. Why create when you can appropriate? They laughed and moved back toward the ballroom, leaving me frozen in place. I cannot fully describe what I felt in that moment. Shock gave way to disbelief, then to a cold, clarifying anger unlike anything I had experienced before. The calculated nature of it, the casual cruelty of discussing putting me away like an inconvenient piece of furniture, the assumption that everything I had worked for was theirs to take. Worse was the realization that my daughter was either complicit or being manipulated. Neither possibility offered any comfort. I remained on the terrace for nearly 30 minutes, processing what I had heard. When I finally returned to the reception, I viewed everything through new eyes. Justin kissing Amanda on the dance floor, his friends clustered in corners, all seeming to watch me with new interest. Had they all known? Was I the only one not aware of the plan for my future? I went through the motions for the remainder of the evening. I danced one last dance with Amanda, feeling a gulf between us that had nothing to do with physical space. I shook hands with Justin when they departed for their hotel suite, looking directly into his eyes and seeing nothing but self-satisfaction reflected back. The newlyweds would leave the next morning for a 2-week honeymoon in the Maldives, another expense I had largely covered. The drive home to my beach house was surreal. The Pacific Coast Highway was nearly empty at that late hour. The moon cast a silver path across the dark water. I had driven this road thousands of times, but never with such heaviness in my heart. By the time I pulled into my garage, one thing had become absolutely clear. I needed to protect myself, immediately and decisively. Sleep was impossible. I changed out of my tuxedo and walked down to the shore in sweatpants and a t-shirt, the sand cool beneath my bare feet. The rhythmic sound of waves usually soothed me, but that night, each crash against the shore seemed to emphasize the betrayal I had discovered. How had I missed the signs? In retrospect, there had been plenty. Justin asking detailed questions about my properties during family dinners. His sudden interest in my retirement plans when I turned 65. Comments about friends whose parents had needed assisted living, with pointed questions about my long-term care insurance. Amanda growing defensive whenever I questioned their financial decisions. I walked for hours along the shoreline, moving from shock to grief to cold determination. This house, This beloved space filled with memories of Elaine would not become a development opportunity for Justin and his investors. The Brentwood property, which Amanda had taken for granted as her own, would not fund their Pacific Palisades project. As the eastern sky began to lighten, I returned to the house and pulled out all my property documents from the home safe. Everything was as I knew it to be. Both properties were solely in my name. The beach house had been paid off for years. The Brentwood property had a small mortgage with excellent terms that I maintained for tax purposes. At just past midnight, I called Thomas. Despite the hour, he answered on the third ring. "Bryce, is everything all right? I need your help, Thomas. Urgent legal matter. I heard something at the wedding. I need to make immediate changes." His voice sharpened, professional instincts overriding the late hour. "What happened?" I told him everything I had overheard, word for word. Thomas listened without interruption, then asked several pointed questions about witnesses, exact wording, and whether Amanda had been present for any of the conversation. "Options?" I finally asked. "Many," he replied. "But timing is crucial. What do you want to accomplish?" "I want to protect myself. I want to make sure neither property goes to them. I want to act before they return from their honeymoon." Thomas was quiet for a moment. "We could contest any future attempts to declare you incompetent, update your will and healthcare directives, set up trusts that would be difficult to break." "Too passive," I said. "Too many loopholes. They would still try to manipulate Amanda. I need something definitive, something immediate." "You want to sell the properties," Thomas stated. It was not a question. "Yes, both of them, as quickly as possible. The beach house is worth far more than what you could get in a rush sale. Same for the Brentwood property. I do not care. I want them gone. I want to remove the temptation entirely." Thomas sighed. "I can make some calls in the morning. I know several realtors who handle discreet, rapid transactions. But Bryce, have you considered talking to Amanda first? She may not know what Justin is planning." The doubt in his voice mirrored my own internal struggle. Amanda was my only child, my last connection to Elaine. The thought of acting so drastically without even giving her a chance to explain was painful. But the calculated nature of the conversation I had overheard, the multiple properties already factored into their plans, suggested this was no idle talk. "No," I finally said. "If she is being manipulated, this will force the truth into the open. If she is complicit, then I need to protect myself even more." "All right," Thomas said. "I will start making calls at 7 a.m. Get some sleep if you can. Tomorrow will be intense." But sleep remained elusive. I spent the pre-dawn hours sitting on my deck, watching the dark ocean gradually reveal itself as night retreated. This house had been my sanctuary, the place where Elaine and I had planned to grow old together. Every corner held memories 20 years deep. I remembered the weekends spent choosing fixtures and flooring, Elaine insisting on the oversized windows to maximize the ocean view. Our first Christmas here, when we had invited friends and family to see the completed home. Amanda learning to swim in the ocean just beyond our property line. Elaine and I sharing coffee on this very deck each morning before her diagnosis. Selling felt like another loss, another piece of Elaine slipping away. But keeping it meant risking everything we had built, becoming nothing more than a development opportunity for Justin. The thought of our carefully designed home being demolished for maximum profit turned my grief to resolve. As the sun broke over the hills behind me, casting golden light across the water, I found clarity. This was not just about real estate. This was about dignity, about refusing to be seen as nothing more than assets to be acquired. I would rather walk away from everything than become a pawn in Justin's game. I went inside and showered, made coffee, and began sorting through what I would take and what I would leave behind. By the time Thomas called at 7:30, I had made peace with my decision. "I have Patricia Stewart ready to list the beach house and Jack Friedman for the Brentwood property," he said. "Both are ready to meet you this morning. I have explained the situation and the need for absolute discretion and speed. Tell them I will price both properties 20% below market for immediate sale," I replied. "I need to be signing final papers within 48 hours. Thomas started to protest, but I cut him off. "Money is not the primary concern here, Thomas. Freedom Island, Patricia Stewart arrived at 9 a.m., sharp, elegant, and efficient in a navy business suit despite the early hour and weekend timing. Her eyes widened appreciatively as she entered the beach house, taking in the panoramic ocean views and custom finishes. "Mr. Matthews, this property is stunning," she said. "Are you absolutely certain you want to sell? And so quickly?" "Completely certain," I replied, handing her a folder with all the relevant property information. "I am thinking 5.6 million, as is, for a cash buyer who can close immediately." She nearly dropped her portfolio. The standard valuation of this property would be well over 7 million, possibly approaching 8 in the current market. Even for an expedited sale, you could ask 6.5 and still move it quickly. "I need it sold today, Patricia. Price it to guarantee that happens." To her credit, she adapted quickly to my unusual request. She took detailed notes, digital photos, and measurements, explaining she had several clients perpetually looking for Malibu beachfront properties who could move without mortgage contingencies. "I will need to cancel my other appointments, but I can have potential buyers here within hours. With this location and the price point you are suggesting, I am confident we will have multiple offers by this afternoon." While Patricia made calls from her car, I prepared for my meeting with Jack Friedman regarding the Brentwood property. Jack was a different type of realtor than Patricia, more aggressive in his approach, which suited my purposes for the second property. He arrived just before 10:30, and we drove together to Brentwood. The house was a modern 5-bedroom in one of the most desirable neighborhoods, extensively renovated when I purchased it for Amanda. As I unlocked the door, I felt a strange detachment. This had always been Amanda's space, furnished to her taste, maintained at my expense. "The property has been well maintained," I explained to Jack. "All systems updated within the last 3 years. Current market value around 3 million, but I am asking 2.4 for immediate sale." Jack whistled. "At that price point, we will have a bidding war, even with the rush conditions. Any particular type of buyer you are looking for?" "Someone who will appreciate the property for its quality, not just its investment potential," I said, "and absolute confidentiality regarding the seller." By the time we returned to the beach house, Patricia had scheduled showings with 3 potential buyers for early afternoon. My phone was already buzzing with text messages from Thomas, who had prepared preliminary sale documents for both properties. The next several hours passed in a blur of activity. Wealthy buyers and their representatives cycled through the beach house while I sat on the deck, gazing at the ocean and trying to process the enormity of what I was doing. Patricia handled the showings with professional discretion, explaining only that the seller needed to relocate quickly for personal reasons. By 3 p.m., I had 3 offers on the beach house, all at or above my asking price. The winning bid came from a tech executive from Northern California, looking for a weekend retreat, offering all cash and a 24-hour closing. His representative assured me they would handle the property with care, maintaining its character rather than demolishing it for redevelopment. The Brentwood property moved even faster. Jack called at 4:30 with news of 5 competing offers, the highest coming from a surgeon and his wife with 2 children, offering 2.7 million, also all cash with expedited closing. I signed preliminary papers for both sales by early evening, feeling strangely light. Thomas arrived with additional documentation, concern evident in his expression. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Bryce?" he asked as we sat at my kitchen counter. "This is extremely fast, even for motivated sellers." "I have never been more certain of anything," I replied. "I would rather take a financial hit than give Justin the satisfaction of profiting from either property." "What about Amanda?" Thomas persisted. "This will affect her too." I looked out at the darkening ocean, thinking of my daughter as she had been before Justin, before the materialism and entitlement had taken root. She needs to understand there are consequences, that some things, once broken, cannot be easily repaired. We spent the next several hours going through additional paperwork. Thomas had already set up a new trust for the proceeds from both sales, with ironclad provisions that would protect the assets from any future claims. He had also arranged for a luxury condo rental in Santa Monica, where I could stay immediately after the sales closed. The most difficult part was deciding what to take from the beach house. 30 years of memories resided in its walls. In the end, I selected only what was irreplaceable: photo albums, Elaine's favorite artwork, family heirlooms, and personal mementos. The furniture, most of the art collection, even my extensive library would stay with the house. The new owner had agreed to purchase it fully furnished, adding another $300,000 to the sale price. By midnight, exhausted but resolute, I had 2 signed purchase agreements and a clear path forward. In just 12 hours, I had dismantled the real estate portfolio that Justin had been planning to appropriate. Patricia and Jack had both earned substantial commissions for their quick work, and Thomas had ensured every legal detail was properly handled. Final papers would be signed tomorrow. The beach house would belong to someone else by nightfall. The Brentwood property would change hands the following day. Neither would ever become part of Justin's development schemes. I spent my last night in the beach house, moving between rooms, saying goodbye to the space that had held so much of my life with Elaine. I felt her presence strongly that night, almost as though she were guiding my actions, protecting me as I protected our legacy from being exploited. Standing on the deck under the stars, I whispered to her memory, "He will not win, Elaine." Our life together was worth more than development potential. The ocean whispered back, its eternal rhythm reassuring me that while homes might change hands, some connections could never be broken or devalued. The closing for the beach house happened at noon the next day. By 2 p.m., I had transferred the bulk of my remaining possessions to the Santa Monica condo and handed the keys to the new owner, a thoughtful man who shared his plans to preserve much of what Elaine and I had created. As I drove away for the final time, I felt a complex mixture of loss and liberation. The Brentwood closing was scheduled for the following morning. I spent the night in my new temporary home, adjusting to the strange sounds of a building with other residents after decades in a private home. I slept surprisingly well, the weight of decision-making behind me, action already taken. I was at the title company signing final papers for the Brentwood property when my phone began vibrating continuously with calls from Amanda. I silenced it, focusing on completing the transaction. Only after the documents were signed and notarized did I check my voicemail. "Dad, what the hell is happening?" Amanda's voice was shrill with panic. "There are people at my house saying they bought it. Call me immediately." I stepped outside into the bright morning sunlight and returned her call. "Dad," Amanda answered instantly, "there is some horrible mistake. These people are claiming they bought my house. They have paperwork and everything. You need to call your lawyer right away." "There is no mistake, Amanda," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I sold the Brentwood house yesterday. The new owners are entitled to take possession immediately." "What?" Her voice rose an octave. "You cannot sell my house. I have lived there for 7 years. It was never your house, Amanda. I paid for it. I maintained it. The deed has always been in my name." A moment of stunned silence followed. Then, "But all my things are there. Where am I supposed to go?" "I suggest a hotel until you return from your honeymoon. The new owners have agreed to have your personal belongings packed and stored. You can contact them about arrangements." "Dad, this is insane. You cannot just sell the house out from under me. Justin and I were planning to sell it next year," I interrupted. "To use the capital for your Pacific Palisades project." Her sharp intake of breath was audible. "What are you talking about?" "I heard Justin and his best man discussing their plans at your reception, Amanda. About putting me in a nursing home. About selling both properties. About the development potential of the beach house lot." A long silence followed. When Amanda finally spoke, her voice was smaller. "Dad, I do not know what you think you heard, but there must be some misunderstanding." There was no misunderstanding. I heard every word, including Justin's comment about getting rich off the wealth of others. "Why create when you can appropriate?" Those were his exact words. "Where are you? We need to talk about this in person. This is crazy. I am signing the papers for the Brentwood house as we speak. I sold the beach house yesterday." "You sold the beach house too?" Amanda sounded like she might faint. "But that has been in our family forever." "How could you?" "Rather easily. Once I realized it was viewed as nothing more than a development opportunity. 7-figure lot value, development potential, investors already lined up." "Ring any bells, Amanda?" "We need to meet," she insisted. Justin and I are flying home today. This is all some huge misunderstanding. I agreed to meet them the following morning at a coffee shop in Santa Monica, neutral territory away from the properties that no longer belong to any of us. The meeting was every bit as difficult as I had anticipated. Amanda arrived first, her honeymoon tan contrasting with the dark circles under her eyes. She hugged me tightly, something she had not done in years. "Dad, please tell me this is some kind of lesson, that you have not really sold both houses," she pleaded. Before I could answer, Justin arrived, his handsome face tight with barely controlled anger. He did not offer to shake my hand. "What the hell kind of stunt is this?" he demanded as soon as he sat down. "You have upset Amanda terribly. Whatever game you are playing needs to stop now." I looked at him calmly. "This is no game, Justin. I overheard your conversation with Ryan at the reception. Your plans for my beach house, for the Brentwood property, and for me." He paled slightly but recovered quickly. "I do not know what you think you heard, old man, but you are confused. Maybe this proves we need to be more involved in your care." "I am not confused in the slightest," I replied, pulling out my phone. I recorded our conversation just now, by the way. California may be a two-party consent state for recordings, but this coffee shop is public space, with no expectation of privacy. So please, continue explaining how confused I am, while I consider which parts to play for Amanda. It was a bluff. I had not recorded anything, but Justin did not know that, and the momentary flash of panic in his eyes confirmed everything. "Ryan and I were just talking hypothetically," he said, his tone defensive. "Wedding reception talk after a few drinks. Nothing serious. Hypothetical investors already lined up for the beach house development. Hypothetical plans for the Pacific Palisades project, using proceeds from the Brentwood house." I turned to Amanda. "Did you know the Brentwood house was never in your name?" She looked down at her untouched coffee. I thought, "You always said it was my house. I said you could live there. I never transferred the deed, which you would know if you had paid any attention to the property tax bills I paid every year. You had no right to sell either property without discussing it with us first," Justin interjected, desperation edging into his voice. "We are family now." That statement pushed me past diplomacy. Family does not conspire to put family members in nursing homes against their will. Family does not view loved ones as obstacles to accessing property. What you are, Justin, is a predator who targeted my daughter to get to my assets." Amanda gasped. "Dad, that is a terrible thing to say. Ask him, Amanda. Ask him directly if he was planning to suggest I needed assisted living. Ask him if he already had investors interested in developing the beach house lot." She turned to Justin, question in her eyes. He tried to recover, taking her hand. "Sweetheart, your father is twisting things. We talked about how someday, many years from now, he might need more care than we could provide at home. That is normal family planning. And yes, I mentioned the beach house has development potential, but only as a distant possibility if your father ever decided to sell." I laughed without humor. "That is not what you told Ryan. You said, and I quote, 3 more months of playing the devoted husband. Then we start phase 2. You talked about moving things around in my house to make me think I was forgetting things. About Amanda already complaining I get confused sometimes." Amanda pulled her hand away from Justin, her expression shocked. "I never said that. I have never thought you were confused." Justin's mask finally slipped, his face contorted with anger. "You spying old bastard. You had no right to eavesdrop on a private conversation. So you admit it was all true?" Amanda whispered. Justin realized his mistake too late. "Look, every family has these discussions eventually. Your father is not getting any younger. The properties were just sitting there, underutilized assets. I was thinking about our future, about building something for our children, by putting my father in a home against his will, by selling property that was not yours to sell." The argument escalated quickly. Justin, realizing he had lost any pretense of innocence, turned ugly, accusing me of manipulating Amanda, of being jealous of their happiness. He threatened lawsuits, claimed elder law attorneys would have a field day with my impulsive property sales. Thomas chose that moment to arrive, as we had arranged beforehand. He sat down beside me, introduced himself to Justin as my attorney. and calmly explained that both sales were completely legal, properly executed, and already finalized. The properties are gone, he explained, sold to new owners who have already taken possession. The proceeds are in an irrevocable trust, with specific provisions against coercion or claims of mental incompetence. You have absolutely no legal grounds to contest any of it. Justin's face went from angry to calculating. Fine, he finally said. Amanda still inherits everything eventually. We can wait. Thomas smiled thinly. Mr. Matthews has made significant changes to his estate plan as well. I am not at liberty to discuss the details, but I would not count on inheriting substantial assets. This is financial elder abuse, Justin exploded, causing heads to turn at nearby tables. You have manipulated your client into impulsive financial decisions that harm his only child. Thomas slid a folder across the table. Inside was a printed transcript of everything I had overheard at the wedding reception, witnessed and notarized by Thomas himself. Your plan to falsely claim Mr. Matthews is mentally incompetent in order to gain control of his assets would actually constitute elder abuse, he said quietly. I would be careful about throwing such accusations around. Justin stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. This is not over. Come on, Amanda. We need to talk to my lawyers. Amanda remained seated, tears streaming down her face. I will meet you later, she said quietly. Are you serious? Justin demanded. You are choosing him over me, after what he has done? I need time to think, she said. Please, just go, for a moment. I thought Justin might make a scene, but the attention we had already drawn from other patrons seemed to make him reconsider. He stalked out without another word, leaving Amanda sobbing quietly at the table. Thomas excused himself tactfully, saying he would call me later. How could you do this? Amanda finally asked, looking up at me with reddened eyes. How could you sell both houses without even talking to me first? How could you marry someone who was plotting to put me in a nursing home? I countered. I did not know, Dad. I swear I did not know. Would it have mattered if you did? The Amanda I raised would have been appalled by such a plan. The Amanda sitting across from me now. I am not so sure. That is unfair, she whispered. Is it? Look at your life these past 2 years, Amanda. The endless pursuit of luxury, the entitlement, the assumption that my assets were yours to plan around. When did you become this person? She had no answer. After a few moments of heavy silence, she gathered her purse and stood. I need to figure out where I am going to live now, since you sold my home without warning. Call Rachel, I suggested, referring to her college roommate who had remained a close friend until recently. She always said you could stay with her if you needed to. Amanda nodded stiffly. I will be in touch when I figure things out. I watched her walk away, shoulders hunched against emotions I could only imagine. Betrayal, confusion, anger, perhaps even the first stirrings of understanding. I had acted drastically, yes, but sometimes a clean break was the only way to prevent a more painful, prolonged injury. As I paid for our untouched coffees, I wondered if I had just lost my daughter forever, and whether the price of protecting myself had been too high. The next 6 months were the loneliest of my life. Amanda did not call. My attempts to reach out went unanswered or received brief, formal responses. I settled into my rented condo, investing most of the proceeds from the property sales with the help of former colleagues who understood my need for security and growth. Through mutual friends, I heard bits and pieces about Amanda and Justin's situation. The lavish lifestyle they had planned had evaporated with the loss of both properties. Justin's father, contrary to the impression of family wealth, had apparently over-leveraged his own real estate investments and was in no position to help them. 3 months after our confrontation, I learned that Justin had been asked to leave his firm. The details were murky, but it appeared his aggressive push for partnership had backfired when senior partners discovered discrepancies in some of his client accounts. Without the expected income or property assets, Justin and Amanda were struggling financially for perhaps the first time in their adult lives. I maintained my distance, despite the temptation to intervene. This was a necessary lesson, painful though it might be. Amanda needed to see Justin's true character revealed under pressure, without my influence coloring her judgment. In the 4th month, Amanda sent me a text message. "I miss you, Dad." It was the first crack in the wall between us, but I responded cautiously. "I miss you too. When you are ready to talk, I am here." Another month passed before she reached out again, asking if we could meet for coffee. I suggested a small cafe near my condo, neutral territory that would not emphasize how much our circumstances had changed. When Amanda arrived, I barely recognized her. The carefully maintained appearance she had cultivated as Justin's wife was gone. Her hair was pulled back simply, her face free of makeup, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. She looked younger somehow, but also tired in a bone-deep way that concerned me. "Hi, Dad," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. "You look well," I said, not knowing how else to begin. A small smile flickered across her face. "No, I do not. But thanks for saying it." We ordered coffee and pastries, dancing around the elephants in the room until the awkwardness became too much to bear. "How are you really doing?" I finally asked. "Not great," she admitted. "Justin and I are separated. He moved out last month." I kept my expression neutral, though inwardly I felt a surge of relief. "What happened?" Amanda traced the rim of her coffee cup with one finger. "After you sold the houses, everything changed. Justin was so angry all the time. He kept saying we would sue you, that he had connections who could help us get everything back. But when the legal advice made it clear that was not possible, he started blaming me." "I am sorry," I said, meaning it. "That must have been difficult." "The thing is," she continued, "once I started paying attention, I realized you were right about him. He was only interested in what he thought I would inherit. When that disappeared, so did his affection." She looked up, eyes glistening. "One night, after too many drinks, he admitted everything. The plan to suggest you needed assisted living, the investors for the beach house, all of it. He said I was too stupid to see the opportunity we had lost." "What did you do?" "I told him to leave, that my father might have sold the houses, but at least he had done it to protect himself, not out of greed." Justin packed a bag and went to stay with Ryan. We have barely spoken since, except through divorce attorneys. I reached across the table and took her hand. "I am truly sorry it ended this way, Amanda." "Are you?" she asked, a hint of the old bitterness returning. "You never liked him." "I did not like what he brought out in you," I clarified. "The materialism, the entitlement. That was not how your mother and I raised you." She withdrew her hand, blinking back tears. "I know. I lost myself somewhere along the way. After Mom died, nothing felt secure anymore. Justin seemed so confident, so certain about everything. It felt good to let someone else make the decisions." Our conversation continued for over 2 hours. Amanda told me about living with Rachel temporarily, about finding a retail job at a small boutique to make ends meet while the divorce proceeded. Justin had apparently gambled away most of their savings on a desperate investment scheme, leaving Amanda with minimal resources. "Where are you living now?" I asked as we prepared to leave. "I found a studio apartment in Culver City," she said. "It is tiny but affordable. Nothing like what I am used to, but it is mine. I pay for it myself." The pride in her voice when she said those words gave me hope that something positive might eventually emerge from this painful episode. We began meeting regularly after that, rebuilding our relationship one careful conversation at a time. I learned more about her marriage, how Justin had gradually isolated her from friends like Rachel who asked too many questions about their lifestyle and future plans, how he had encouraged her spending habits while secretly maintaining his own separate accounts. The classic patterns of financial manipulation that I had failed to recognize while they were happening. For her part, Amanda began to understand why I had acted so drastically, why selling the properties had been the only way I could see to protect myself and, ultimately, her as well. Justin did not fare well in the aftermath. The divorce proceedings revealed additional financial improprieties, including credit cards opened in Amanda's name without her knowledge. His professional reputation, already damaged by his departure from the firm, deteriorated further when former clients came forward with complaints. The final blow came when his investment scheme collapsed entirely, taking with it the last of his personal assets. Through mutual acquaintances, We learned he had been evicted from his apartment and was temporarily staying on friends' couches, each welcome wearing thin faster than the last. I take no pleasure in another person's downfall, I told Amanda when she shared this news. But I am grateful you are free of his influence. She nodded thoughtfully. I keep thinking about who I was becoming with him, how easily I accepted the idea that we deserved luxury without working for it, that your assets were really mine to plan around. I do not recognize that person anymore. 8 months after the wedding that had started this chain of events, Amanda and I had dinner at my condo to celebrate her divorce being finalized. She brought a bottle of inexpensive wine and a homemade dessert, simple pleasures that would have seemed beneath her notice during her time with Justin. As we sat on my small balcony overlooking the city lights, Amanda asked the question I had been waiting for. Why did you not just confront us immediately after overhearing Justin's plans? Why sell everything without warning? I considered my answer carefully, because it would have become a debate about what I heard versus what was intended. Justin would have denied everything, made me sound paranoid or confused, exactly as he tried to do at the coffee shop. By taking action first, I forced the truth into the open. She was quiet for a long moment. I am not sure I would have believed you over him back then. She looked at me, eyes clear and direct in a way they had not been for years. I needed to see his true colors for myself. I understand now why you did what you did, she continued, but I am still sad about the beach house. So many memories there with you and Mom. I felt a pang of regret, not for my actions, but for the collateral damage to those precious shared memories. The house itself was just a structure, but what it represented was irreplaceable. I miss it too, I admitted, but I would rather see it in the hands of someone who values it as a home, not as a development opportunity. Amanda raised her glass in a small toast, to doing what is necessary, even when it hurts. I clinked my glass against hers, feeling for the first time that we might eventually find our way back to solid ground. 1 year after selling both properties, my life had found a new rhythm. I purchased a modest but comfortable 2-bedroom condo in Santa Monica, walking distance to the ocean, though without the private beach access I had once enjoyed. The smaller space suited me, requiring less maintenance and encouraging a simpler lifestyle I found I actually preferred. Amanda and I continued rebuilding our relationship through weekly dinners and occasional weekend outings. The process was not always smooth. There were difficult conversations about trust, about the materialistic values she had embraced, about my failure to recognize how vulnerable she had been to someone like Justin after losing her mother. The most significant step forward came when I established an education trust for Amanda. Not a blank check, but dedicated funds for her to pursue a degree in a field that would provide stable employment. After much consideration, she enrolled in a nursing program, a choice that would have shocked the Amanda of 2 years ago. I was working at a community center near my new home, volunteering to teach financial literacy to seniors. It was deeply satisfying to help others protect themselves from the kinds of predatory relationships and financial abuse I had narrowly avoided. Thomas teased me about finding a second career in retirement, but the truth was, the work gave me purpose during a time when I might otherwise have focused too much on what I had lost. Amanda thrived in her nursing program, discovering an aptitude for patient care that surprised both of us. Perhaps losing everything had opened her to possibilities she would never have considered during her materialistic phase with Justin. She worked part-time at her retail job while studying, living within a modest budget in her small apartment. Justin continued his downward spiral. The divorce had left him with significant debt and damaged credit. His former connections in real estate development wanted nothing to do with him after his failed investment scheme. The last Amanda heard, he was working as a car salesman in San Diego, a dramatic fall for someone who had once boasted about multi-million-dollar development deals. 18 months after the wedding, Amanda invited me to dinner at her apartment, insisting on cooking for me instead of meeting at a restaurant. The small studio was impeccably maintained, decorated simply but with evident care. Photos of her mother and childhood family memories adorned one wall, a visual reminder of the values she was reclaiming. Over a simple but delicious pasta dinner, Amanda handed me an envelope. "What is this?" I asked. "Open it," she urged, looking nervous but determined. Inside was a bank check for $30,000, nearly half the amount I had given her for the wedding. "I've been saving everything I could for the past year," she explained. "I know it is nowhere near what you spent on the wedding, but I wanted to start repaying you, to show you I understand the value of money now." I tried to refuse, but she was adamant. "This is important to me, Dad. Please accept it." I finally agreed, recognizing that this was about more than money. It was about accountability, about Amanda taking responsibility for her past choices and demonstrating her commitment to different values moving forward. Later that evening, as we sat drinking tea, Amanda brought up the beach house for the first time in months. "Do you ever regret selling it?" she asked. "It was your dream home with Mom." I considered the question carefully. I miss certain things: the sound of the waves at night, the privacy, the memories, of course. But no, I do not regret it. The house had become a symbol of something unhealthy, a prize to be taken rather than a home to be cherished. "I sometimes drive by it," Amanda admitted. "The new owners have kept it mostly the same from the outside. They added some landscaping, but the house itself looks just like it did when we had it." "That is good to hear," I said, surprised by how much this simple fact comforted me. "I have been thinking about what happened with Justin, about how easily I was fooled," she continued. "I was so focused on appearances, on having the perfect life that looked good on social media, that I completely missed the warning signs about his character." "We all have blind spots," I said. "I should have seen what was happening sooner." Amanda shook her head. "You tried to warn me. I just was not ready to hear it. I think sometimes we have to lose everything to figure out what really matters." Her words stayed with me long after I returned to my own condo that night. There was wisdom in them that went beyond her 29 years, hard-earned insight that gave me hope for her future. 2 years to the day after I sold both properties, Amanda and I met for dinner at a restaurant near the beach. She had just completed her nursing degree and was starting a position at a respected hospital the following month. I had continued my volunteer work and even begun dating occasionally, something I had not done since Elaine's death. After our meal, we walked along the public beach, watching the sunset paint the Pacific in shades of gold and pink. It was not the same as viewing it from our private deck, but there was something democratic about sharing the experience with others, all of us equal in our appreciation of nature's beauty. "What would Mom think of everything that has happened?" Amanda asked suddenly. I smiled, picturing Elaine's no-nonsense expression. She would have seen through Justin in 5 minutes flat. "But she would be incredibly proud of who you are becoming now." Amanda linked her arm through mine as we walked. "I am sorry for everything that happened, Dad. But in a strange way, I am also grateful. If you had not taken such drastic action, I might still be trapped in that life, in that marriage, never knowing who I really am or what I am capable of. It is funny how losing what you think you want can sometimes lead you to what you actually need," I observed. As we turned to head back, Amanda squeezed my arm gently. "Thank you for loving me enough to do something that hurt us both in the short term. I know it was not easy. The hardest thing I have ever done," I admitted. "But watching you now, I know it was worth it." The sun dipped below the horizon, closing one chapter and promising another. We had both lost homes that meant something to us, but had found our way back to what truly mattered: the values, principles, and love that no property deed could ever contain. I wonder how many of you have had to make difficult choices to protect yourselves or loved ones. Have you ever had to give up something valuable to preserve something even more precious? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary ones. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that true wealth is measured not by what you own, but by the strength of your character and relationships.